From Astoria to the Rockaways, it's time for the Queen's New Yorker. And here is the man giving you all the info, your uber snazzy and jazzy host, Mr. Jason D'Antonio.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Jason Kelly. And good morning and welcome to another edition of the Queen's New Yorker, right here on YouTube and Instagram, if we can get the darn thing working. It is episode number 50, the Big 50, on this February 1st, 2020. It's a Saturday edition of the Queen's New Yorker, and we're so glad that you have joined us for the next series of episodes that will take us into more depth, more information. Oh, yes. And I hope you enjoyed Thursday's episode of the Queen's New Yorker, because that was the final episode of what I like to call the history of the neighborhoods. Remember, I said before that we didn't even begin to scratch the surface once covering all of the historic information that everything about the borough has to offer. Now, as we start the next series of information, we're now going to go back to where it all started. We're going to go back to Astoria and start giving you places of interest, start giving you geographies, demographics, more in-depth look at each neighborhood, and every episode will touch upon that. So these next episodes should be very, very informative, very, very reminiscing, and very, very interesting. But like I always do before we delve into the new episode, I want to go to the dashboard and let you know what's been going on, because you viewers, you subscribers out there have really shown very great interest in the borough. I'm proud of all of you for taking the time to watch the video with the slideshow presentation, listen to the information that's being presented to you, and draw a semi-interest or an interest in it. And the feedback has just been phenomenal. So, episode 49, not even 2 days ago, was uploaded. In the first day, it had 35 views. In 2 days. It's now up to 41 with 2 comments, 2 likes, and no dislikes. You guys are fantastic. Thank you so much. It's like as soon as I upload something, bam, you guys are on it. And I'm so happy that you are taking an interest in what I like to call my home borough of New York City. So, without further ado, also, too, the total views, 1,819, which means in another 181 views, I'm going to have to show my face again. Then we'll hit 2,000. And we have 268 subscribers right now as a running total. So if you would like to tell your friends who own channels out there, we'll do that. And, of course, at the end of the program, I'm going to spotlight 3 more subscribers and give you their wonderful channels and tell you a little bit about their material, what they're covering on our show, so that you can go and visit them. I believe channel swapping and is a great way to make friends, great way to get subscribers, and everybody has a little bit of taste of something to watch and to listen for. So at the end of the program, we'll give you 3 more subscribers. All right? So without further ado, let's take a look at Astoria, and let's look at the geography, as there is some debate as to what constitutes the geographic boundaries of Astoria. The neighborhood was part of Long Island City prior to the latter's incorporation in the city of New York in 1898. The area south of Astoria was called Ravenswood, and traditionally Broadway was considered the border between the two. So today, however, Many residents and businesses of south of Broadway identify themselves as Astorians for convenience or status, since Long Island City has historically been considered an industrial area. And Ravenswood is now mostly a low-income neighborhood. Some of the thoroughfares have lent their names to unofficial terms for the areas they serve. For instance, the eastern end of Astoria, with Steinway Street as its main thoroughfare, is sometimes referred to simply as Steinway, and the northern end of around Ditmars Boulevard is sometimes referred to as Ditmars, with their convergence point bearing the neighborhood name Ditmars Steinway. Banners displayed on lampposts along 30th Avenue refer to it as the heart of Astoria. Well, in the heart of Astoria, today on our show, we're going to explore two great places of interest that have a solid connection to Astoria. They practically speak Astoria. What am I referring to? One is a museum. The other is a studio that houses a 50-year-old show that's been in all of our lives in one way, shape, or form. First off is the Museum of the Moving Image. We're going to look at that today. Mommy, which redirects here, MOMI, is the Museum of the Moving Image in London. For other uses, see Mommy. The museum is a media museum located in a former building of the historic Astoria Studios, now the Kaufman Astoria Studios, in the Astoria neighborhood in Queens, in New York City. The museum originally opened in 1988 as the American Museum of the Moving Image. The museum began a $67 million expansion in March of 2008 and reopened in January of 2011. The expansion was designed by architect Thomas Lesser. Now, the Museum of the Moving Image exists to expand public understanding and appreciation of the art, history, technique, and technology of film, television, and digital media by collecting, preserving, and providing access to moving image-related artifacts via multimedia exhibitions and educational programming. The exhibits include significant audiovisual components designed to promote an understanding of the history of the industry and an understanding of how it has evolved. Panel discussions about current movies are frequently held at the museum. The museum hosts regularly monthly series in its two premium theaters, and these ongoing series include Changing the Picture, Fist and Sword, New Adventures in Nonfiction, Science on Screen, and Disreputable Cinema. And each of these explore and celebrate many aspects of the art and culture of cinema. And it is also home to one of the most significant collection of video games and gaming software. The museum's attendance has grown from 60,000 in 2000 to an expected figure of 120,000 in 2011. And in 2017, the museum opened the Jim Henson Exhibition, a permanent exhibit honoring the life and ingenuity of Jim Henson and his creations. Further, an exhibit entitled Envisioning 2001, Stanley Kubrick's Space Odyssey, opened in January of this year. The museum's history as the Astoria Motion Picture and Television Center Foundation traces its history to 1970, when the foundation took control of the former Astoria Studios in an effort to preserve the now landmarked building, which was home to a number of significant productions. The foundation's work was a success, revitalized the site and consumers' interest in the industry, and plans were made to expand the consumer access to the studio in the form of a museum. Following 7 years of work and at a cost of $15 million, the American Museum of the Moving Image opened on September 10th of 1988 in the former East Coast home of Paramount Pictures, as the first museum in the United States that was devoted solely to art, history, and technology of film, television, and video. This was followed days later by the opening of the British Museum of the same name. The New York Theater, ultra-modern by 1988 standards, was equipped to present 70mm, 35mm, and 16mm film formats and was one of only 2 sites in New York with the ability to present old nitrate prints. It also recreated moments from television and video history and allowed visitors the opportunity to watch television in a TV lounge from the early days of television. In 2005, the museum was among 406 New York City arts and social service institutions to receive part of a $20 million grant from the Carnegie Corporation, which was made possible through a donation by the New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg. In March of 2008, the museum broke ground for a $65 million expansion that doubled the museum's size and added a new theater and educational space. And while the museum remained open during most of the construction period, with its old theater demolished and the new ones yet to be built, screening series and other events were held off-site. And although the collection was still available to scholars, the museum opened its redesigned and expanding building, designed by Lesser Architecture, on January 5th of 2011. And now a look at the next interesting place that is inside that museum, the Kaufman Astoria Studios building. Now, this is home to the only New York City's backlot, which opened in December of 2013. The studio was originally constructed for famous players Lasky in 1920 to provide the company with a facility close to the Broadway Theater District. Many features and short subjects were filmed there between 1920 and 1933. The first Sherlock Holmes sound film, The Return of Sherlock Holmes, was made at the studio by British producer Basil Dean. The Dance of Life, 1929, was a film musical shot on sound stages, with most exterior scenes filmed on a backlot that existed at the time. The first 2 films featuring the Marx Brothers, The Coconuts, 1929, and Animal Crackers, 1930, were shot at the Astoria studio. It was also known as the Paramount Studio. After Paramount Pictures moved all studio operations to California in 1932, the Astoria location was turned over to independent producers whose films were released through Paramount or other Hollywood film companies. And all the films starring tango icon Carlos Gardel made in the United States were shot at the Kaufman Astoria. Gloria Swanson cites the studio as the studio where I began making all of my pictures since 1923 in her autobiography, Swanson on Swanson. In 1942, the United States Army Signal Corps Army Pictorial Service took over the studio for the making of Army training and indoctrination films until 1971, including The Big Picture, that was shown on American television as a network television series. The property was designated a National Historic District and added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1978. The district encompasses 6 contributing buildings. In 1982, the property was taken over by real estate developer George S. Kaufman and renamed Kaufman Astoria Studios. Motion pictures filmed there include the musicals Hair and The Wiz, the films Goodfellas and Carlito's Way. In 1984, the Jacksons' music video Torture was filmed there as well. The 1986 movie The Money Pit, starring Tom Hanks and Shelley Long. Many sequences, especially the visitation sequence in 2002 TV miniseries Angels in America, was also shot there. A 2009 remake, The Taking of Pelham 123, also used the studios. And in 2011, the remake of Arthur filmed a few scenes there. Television shows filmed at the studio include Sesame Street, Onion News Network, Johnny and the Sprites, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, and its successor, Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego. Other projects recorded at the studios have included Judge Judy, Power of 10, The Cosby Show, Cosby, Swan's Crossing, Law and Order, $1 Million Password, the 2009 pilots of the $1 Million Pyramid, Video Power, Spin City, and Mariah Carey's MTV Unplugged. WFAN, which is a local sports radio station owned by CBS, was formerly based at the studio before moving to Lower Manhattan in the fall of 2009. The walls of the studio are lined with images of the performers who have worked in the studios, including Milton Berle, Frank Sinatra, Ginger Rogers, George Burns, Lena Horne, Ethel Merman, Bill Cosby, Paul Robeson, Lillian Gish, Claudette Colbert, Maurice Chevalier, Jeanette MacDonald, Diana Ross, and Jerry Orbach. Kaufman Astoria Studios has 7 sound stages, including the new Stage K designed by the Janssen Design Group. In 2008, Martin P. Robertson, who plays Mr. Snuffleupagus, Tully Monster, and Slimy the Worm on Sesame Street, married Annie Evans, a writer for the show on the Sesame Street set. The ceremony was performed on the steps of 123 Sesame Street, and the reception was held throughout the rest of the set. On December 3rd of 2013, a 34,800 square foot backlot was dedicated. It's the only studio backlot in New York City. In 2014, Kaufman Astoria Studios has announced plans to build a new 18,000 square foot soundstage on its Astoria campus within 2 years. Kaufman Astoria Studios installed a 121 kilowatt solar array on the roof of their facility. The project was developed by Solar One Energy of Long Island City and provides 25% of the studio's power. Well, there you have it, folks. 2 great places of interest that have a real connection to Astoria. And when we come back next time on the show, we're going to look at an interesting museum called the Isamu Noguchi Museum. It's a Japanese museum. We'll also take a look at the Socrates Sculpture Park, as well as Astoria Park. Lots of great places of interest, more on the continuation of Astoria, and right here on the Queens New Yorker on YouTube. I'm Jason Icanio. Remember, folks, be honest, be real, and keep it simple, stupid. Kiss. We'll see you the next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You have been watching the Queens New Yorker. This is Jason Kelly on a Jason DeCanio internet presentation. Thank you for your support.
Don't forget to subscribe to the David Dicey Network for great more content like this one.